We've all seen it on our fitness trackers, right? That default goal, 10,000 steps a day. It almost feels like this universal truth for being healthy. But have you ever stopped to wonder where that number actually came from? Is it really the product of careful medical science, or is it something else entirely? So let's just get right to the heart of it. This health target that millions of us are chasing every single day, is it actually built on a solid foundation of medical research? Well, the answer is going to surprise a lot of you. It's a flat out no. The 10,000 step goal wasn't dreamed up in a research lab or a clinical trial. It was actually born from a marketing campaign way back in 1965. Okay, so here's the story. It all starts in 1965. A Japanese company was about to release a pedometer, and they needed a really catchy name for it. So they called it the Mampo-K, which literally translates to 10,000 step meter. The number was chosen pretty much because it sounded good, it was a nice round number, and it implied an active lifestyle. The actual science to figure out if this was a good target, that didn't come along until much, much later. So, if the number itself was basically arbitrary, what does all the science that came after the fact actually tell us? Well, this is where we need to understand something called the dose-response curve. It's just a way of saying that the health benefits you get from walking aren't a straight line. More isn't always proportionally better. And here's the key takeaway from all that research. When scientists really dug into the data, they found a kind of sweet spot. It turns out the biggest drop in your risk of dying from all causes happens right around 7,500 to 8,000 steps a day, not 10,000. And this chart just illustrates that point perfectly. I mean, look at the absolutely massive jump in benefits when you go from being in that low activity group, less than 4,000 steps, to that optimal range of around 8,000. We're talking a 50 to 65% lower risk. It's huge. But now look at the difference between 8,000 and 10,000 plus steps. See that? The extra benefit is tiny in comparison. It's a classic case of diminishing returns. This quote from the research literature really just hits the nail on the head. From a big picture, public health standpoint, the most powerful thing we can do isn't to get already active people to do a little bit more. It's to help people who are sedentary become moderately active. That jump from, say, 3,000 steps a day to 7,000, that's where the real life-changing magic happens. Okay, so we know the optimal number of steps, but why? Why does just walking around have such a powerful effect on our health? Well, the answer lies in a concept that's a huge, but often completely overlooked part of our metabolism. It's called NEAT. So, NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I know, it's a technical mouthful, but the idea is actually super simple. It's basically all the calories you burn from any movement that isn't formal, planned exercise. We're talking about walking to your car, doing chores around the house, fidgeting at your desk, even just the energy it takes to stand up and maintain your posture. Your daily step count is really the best and easiest way we have to measure all this activity. So, to be absolutely crystal clear, when we talk about NEAT, we're separating it from that 30-minute run you might do or your session at the gym. Formal exercise is, of course, really important, but NEAT is the sum total of all those other little movements that fill up the rest of your day. And just look at this chart. For a lot of us, NEAT actually accounts for a much bigger slice of our daily energy burn than formal exercise does. And here's the really interesting part. It's also the most variable part of our metabolism. The difference in daily calorie burn between a very active person and a sedentary person often isn't about their workout routine. It's about the massive difference in their NEAT. And this brings us right to the reality of modern life, doesn't it? A desk job, by its very definition, is a NEAT suppressor. Sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day just crushes this natural background calorie burn. And that's exactly why step counters and step targets are such a powerful tool. They're a direct, simple way to fight back against that. Okay, so now that we have all this science under our belts, how do we turn it into a practical strategy for ourselves? The goal here is to move past just one arbitrary number and start thinking with a smarter approach. First off, it's really important to be clear about your goal. If you're focused on things like heart health, improving your insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, cholesterol, then walking is incredibly effective, even if you don't lose a single pound. Now, if your primary goal is weight loss, walking is a fantastic supporting player, for sure, but creating that calorie deficit through what you eat is usually the more direct and efficient driver. But here's the thing. it's not just about the total number of steps you get at the end of the day. The pattern of your movement throughout the day also really matters. Sure, getting all your steps in one long walk is good, but you know what's even better for your metabolism? Breaking up those long periods of just sitting. So let's boil all of this down into 3 simple, practical takeaways. First, think about retargeting your goal. Aim for that scientific sweet spot of 7,000 to 8,000 steps. That's where you get the biggest return on your investment. Second, if you're not very active right now, just prioritize consistency. Remember, making the jump from a low step count to a moderate one is the single biggest win you can get. And third, actively interrupt your sitting. Set a little reminder to get up and walk around for just a few minutes every hour or so. It makes a real difference. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We get so focused on hitting a total number every day, but what if the most important metric for our health isn't a total at all, but rather the consistent rhythm of movement that we weave throughout our entire day? Thanks for joining this explainer.